In this course of simulations, we're modeling the flow of customers through a sandwich shop. The process has two main elements, customers and stations. In this movie, I'll define the stations class and then add station objects using a VBA code. Because each station has properties such as the station ID, average processing time, and standard deviation of processing time, I'll read the values from the Sim Setup worksheet. My sample file is Chapter 0204. That's an Excel workbook you can find in the Chapter 2 folder of the exercise files collection. We will be referring to the Sim Setup worksheet in this movie, so I'm starting with that on the screen. If you look over on the left side of the screen, under Customer Simulation, you'll see that we have an entry for the number of stations, which we currently have set to 3. And below that, we have information about stations. There are 3, and we have the station ID, the mean or average processing time, and the standard deviation of that processing time. We won't worry about the column headers in columns F through J for now. We'll write out that information later. Let's go ahead and switch to the Visual Basic Editor. So I'll press Alt F11, and I'm in the Module 1 code module. I have already created an object variable called objs as a station or C station, so it's based on a class that I defined, and I've also defined stations as a collection. What I want to do now is actually instantiate a collection instead of just having the object variable. So I'll go down below the Create Customers and Stations Collections comment, where I already have set customers equals new collection, press Enter, and I will do set stations equals new collection. Now I have a place to put the stations that I create individually. Now I can scroll down to the bottom of the existing code, and above end sub, I can create station objects and initialize values. I will type a comment that says exactly that, create station objects and initialize values. And those values will be the station IDs, mean processing time, and standard deviation that we saw on the Sim Setup worksheet. I need to activate the worksheet to read in the values, so I'll do worksheets, and then left parentheses, and in double quotes, the name of the worksheet, SIM setup, close the quotes and the parentheses, period, and we'll use the activate method to activate the worksheet. We want to start our reading with cell B4 on the worksheet, so I will use the range objects activate method as well. So I'll do range B4, that's the cell that we will base our work on, period, activate, and enter twice. Now we can create code to read in values about our stations. The number of stations is found here on this line in cell B2, so we've already read that value in to the number stations variable, and I'll use that down below. So I'll do 4, and my loop counter will be LST counter, which to me means station counter of type long, equals 1 to LNMBR STAS, which is number of stations. Below that, I will type a note, comment indicating I'm adding a station, and the code to do that will be set objs, and again, that is an object variable that I have created to hold stations, equal, and the class name is C station, and enter. Now we can add the variable we just created to the stations collection. So I'll do stations.add space and then objs and enter. With that in place, we can assign values to the properties for our station. So I'll type a single quote, assign station ID, and read mean and standard deviation from worksheet, and enter. All right, so now we assign values for the station ID, mean, and standard deviation. We can just use our counter variable as the station ID, so I will type stations, left parentheses, LSTCNTR, which is our station counter, period, STAID, equals, and we'll just set it equal to the counter variable, LSTCNTR. We could also read it in from the worksheet if we wanted to. Then enter. Now we can read in the mean, or average processing time, from the worksheet. So that'll be stations, LSTCNTR, period. And the property we'll work with is STA mean equals. Now we need to reach back into the worksheet and pull out a value that is a specific distance from our starting cell of B4, our active cell. So I'll do active cell dot offset. Then in parentheses, we need to tell it how far to look. We'll define that distance in rows and then in columns. So in this case, from B4, we're looking down one row and 0 columns to the right. So that would be LSTCNTR, which is 1 row the first time through, 2 the second, and 3 the third, then a comma, and 0 for 0 columns. Type a right parentheses, everything looks good, and enter. Now the next command will be almost exactly the same, so I will copy this line. So I highlighted, press Ctrl+C, click below it, press Ctrl+V to paste, and instead of the mean, we'll have it as the station standard deviation, so SD, and instead of looking 0 columns to the right, we'll look 1 column to the right. 0 and 1. Now we need to set the next station property. In other words, after a customer has moved through a particular station, what is the next one they need to go to? So press enter a couple times, give myself some space, and type in a comment, set next STA property. If last station, set next station to -1. So any positive number tells us that there's another station to move to. -1 indicates that the customer has successfully exited the system. We need to check each station's station ID to see if they're the last station. If they are, -1. If not, the next station will be their station +1. So if stations LSTCNTR dot station ID, STA ID, is less than LNMBR STAS. So if the station ID is less than the number of stations, then stations LSTCNTR dot next station NEXT STA equals simply the counter variable +1. So LSTCNTR +1 else, followed by a colon, not a semicolon, stations LSTCNTR dot next STA equals -1. Then we'll put in an end if statement, and we're at the end of our for next loop. So I will type next. So to recap what we've done, we created a stations collection and then created a new stations object for each of the 3 stations that we're reading in values for. We assigned values from the worksheet to each of the station's properties. The trick with next station was that if a station is not the last station, the next station is its ID +1. If it is, then the next station is -1. Later on, we will be able to check if a customer made it successfully through the system by ensuring that their current station is -1.